Hi
Hai
guys.
guys,
Hai.
selamat
Hari
Hari
Raya.
Raya.
Selamat Hari Raya.
Hai.
Guys, having your Raya this year.
Wow.
Yeah,
Really?
right?
Wow.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's so
yes.
beautiful. Yeah.
You got special invitation for our architecture project.
Oh, first day raya.
Oh.
Oh,
Wow. So as
Yes.
an architecture student, Arif, what do you think of the place of Istana?
What I think, basically the Istana Negara is look like it was influenced by the Islamic architecture and Malay traditional. For example, Hidut, they imply the concept by creating make-up light and the difference of dimming and lighting the outside and inside of the castle.
That's interesting. But what do you mean by saying that they have a different lighting?
They do it because it will create a unique atmosphere while saving energy consumption. And the system is centered by and helped by 10 control buttons in different locations.
I see.
Izzatul, were
Yes,
the
Arif.
architecture of the palace influenced by the Western in any way?
Actually, yes, there were. Having spent a life over 80 years under the cultural influence of Malays, Chinese, Indians, and also the British, the palace actually contains elements from different cultures. And during this time, the Western influence was new and strong. So, as a result, the largest influence on this building were Western ones, which are the Palladian style and also the British colonial style.
So what are the concepts behind the form of the Istana?
The concept behind the form is actually symmetry, where it creates balance, which then in turn forms harmony, order, and also design. As you can see, like for our palace, the symmetry can actually be found anywhere, and that's one of the reasons why we love it so much.
How so?
The palace is actually built into symmetrical hubs and is the main form of the building. So by having a symmetrical form, the palace also has its own uniqueness to it, just like the new palace that Arif mentioned just now. So the Palladian designs heavily emphasize on the ideology of symmetry. So this means that when a line separates the middle, both sides are identical to each other, and symmetry and balance were great importance since ancient Greek and also Roman architecture, which was what inspired Palladio style, because symmetry becomes a metaphor for sense of harmony and agreement between two sides. So the palace consists of a structural west and east wing with a large space in between. So Arif, how are the culture of the National Palace? Does anyone knows about it?
I know one of the culture that have been practiced in National Palace. I know one of the culture that have been practiced in the National Palace is the ceremony to raise the personal flag of His Majesty and the Yang di-Pertuan Agong as the symbolizing that the Royal Palace of Jalan Duta was officially the National Palace of Malaysia. The ceremony of lowering his personal flag at the old state palace was held at 9 a.m. Meanwhile, the ceremony of raising his personal flag at the new state palace was completed at 10:25 a.m. The event takes place in the state palace square. The flag of the president was raised with 2 flags of Jalur Gemilang and 14 state flags. The method of raising the flag at the 30-meter height pillar is performed automatically in contrast to the manual upgrade old palace. The ceremony concludes with the prayer reading.
How about the culture at National Palace in architectural aspect?
Actually, the culture in architectural aspect was it have the main component in National Palace known as the Balairong Seri, which put the Singgasana of the throne government of Malaysia. The Singgasana is to focus on the Balairong Seri where His Majesty and King and the Queen will meet during the official ceremonies. this balaronseri is used for the sanctification ceremony, the ceremony of granting the degrees of honor, and also the ceremony of the oath and signing of Her Majesty of His and the Deputy Prime.
Zahid, you've been to the Istana Negara a few times already, right?
Yeah.
I noticed here that the resemblance of the new and the old Istana Negara is so similar. But why,
Yeah, that because it's the color that present Royal Palace of Malaysia. It has been written in the ancient script, whereas gold or yellow is the highness of royal. The new Istana Negara has a slight of different scheme where there is a white which resembles the furnace of Islam. The royal yellow and white unite all the Istana buildings together neatly and harmoniously. It appears more consistently color-wise compared to the old Istana Negara.
I see.
Mm.
Oh,
Lily,
yes. Okay.
so Lily, we both know that the old and new castle, new Istana Negara, is both yellow. But can you
Yes.
explain? Is it the old Istana Negara have different color or different slide of yellow?
Yep. It's actually quite a little bit different. There is still royal yellow, but it's not fully yellow. There's actually more colors compared to the new Istana Negara. There's an explanation to this. So the royal yellow, as you explained before, is the color
Royal
of the
color.
yes, and it resembles the abundance of gold Malaysia has. And there's also as you can see, there's a lot of black walls too, which resembles the strength of the soldiers of the Malays during the ancient times. Also, there's a touch of gold on the domes and the trimmings, and also some detailings of gold on the facade.
I see.
Yep.
No offense, Lily, but the texture
Yeah.
of the facade is a bit boring, don't you think?
Well, you have to look closer because the details are at the trimmings, as I said before, the domes and the doors. But yeah, not so much on the walls. The walls are flat because it's inspired by the Victorian style during the old days. And the columns are actually also inspired by Italian Tuscan columns and Doric columns. So it looks quite plain, but other than that, there's also a touch of Malay and Islamic architecture on the texture. For example, the dome of the castle has a crown-shaped finial added to the top, the dome, as a symbol of royalty. So there's a moon and a star with 14 points, which resembles the Malaysian states. And also the bunga raya, which is the national flower of Malaysia, is used as ornamental carvings and motifs on the walls, gates, ceilings, and even the columns as well.
Oh, not so much, eh?
Yeah, there's not much because yeah, they focus on the interior more actually. So the interior has more Arabic carvings, the bunga raya carvings everywhere, textiles, and repetitive hibiscus textiles, wallpapers, carvings everywhere. So yeah.
Oh, interesting.
What about yours? What's the difference between the textures of the new and the old?
Oh, you mean like the Roman and carvings?
Yes.
Oh, as you can see, the old Istana Negara have more carving and ornament for exterior, while the new Istana Negara have and pure design clean with less texture of carving because the translucent texture is focused mostly in the interior.
Oh, it's same
For
as
the
mine.
interior, yeah. Um, for the interior, the new Istana Negara full of carving and ornamented as the decoration. The biggest influence of the decoration is Islam, as you can see at the walls, at the pillars, at the windows. You can see lots of calligraphy, Arabic arts in the walls, and there's also that the Malay-inspired carving and the style representing the floral design of national flowers as you mentioned before, hibiscus. And did you know that all the carving and the ornament are made by the local artists or local people?
Wow, that's awesome.
It doesn't seem impressed, but yeah, it's true.
Fatin, you have been
Hi,
to
Firdaus.
Istana, yeah, old Istana Negara, right?
Yes, I am.
Which is now the Royal Museum.
Yep,
Do you
true.
care to explain a bit about the space planning?
Yes, we did. So what I can observe is that the building area is quite extensive, which is the whole area is 11.34 hectares, and scale of dimension demonstrate a prominent sense of wealth and property. This contribute to the excessive use of ornamentation in the interior of the palace. So it assumed a grand and luxurious feel since the castle is made for the royalty. So the space is also split into three main portions, which is the formal, royal, and the administration components. The palace grounds are not open to public tourists, but the most interesting part is that the main entrance is actually a favorite picture spot for the tourists. So in the recent year, this has changed and become a fantastic tourist attractions. So I heard that you also did went to the new Istana Negara, right? So can you explain more about the space planning there?
I do know few things about the place, which is the total land area. It has about 241.3 hectares, but the building complex is only about 97.65 hectares. Regarding the space planning, it's mostly the same as the old palace, but it's much larger compared in the term of scale. Like it also has the royal compartment, the formal compartment, and the admin's compartment component. Sorry. Uh, the new Istana also has three main gates, which it prioritize the according to the like for the kings, for the people, and for the staff.
Okay, so good point, Peter. So like we can see the space planning, the three main parts for the formal admin royal is also implemented to the new Istana Negara. So as for me, the most significant difference is the type of architecture influenced by both buildings. The new Istana is built originally from Islamic and Malay architecture, while the old palace, the Islamic architecture can only be seen from the embellishment, carvings, and furniture, except for the new extended annex that they built on 1960. It consists of the throne hall, which is the Balai Rosary. This is the only space planning that can be seen influenced by Islamic architecture because it's renovated after they bought the mansion from the Chinese millionaire. It can be seen that the building scale between the old and the new palace have a huge difference too, right?
That's absolutely right. The overall ratio scale is 1 to 9. As you mentioned before, the overall land area for the old Istana is about 97.65 hectares, right? While the
Yes.
new Istana has a massive land area of 241.3 hectares. For the building complex, the old Istana has only about 11.34 hectare, and the new Istana has an enormous building complex which is around 97.65 hectares. So by having this massive area, the new palace has about each room for most of its events and ceremony. So unlike the old palace where it has many multipurpose rooms and halls to hold events.
Yes, true.
So why did they make the new palace? What's the reason?
In terms of space and planning, I think why they changed to a new palace is that it implies the sense of wealthy, grand, and luxurious. As you know, that we are also a developing country, so we need a bigger administration piece to run the country. So as the scale is much bigger, so more spaces for royalty, administration, and also the formal space. So as the old palace has also been extended and renovated countless times, to the point it is better for them to just create a new one, as the old palace it also have a big area. So to make a renovation, it took much money for that. So better to just create a new one. So from the architecture itself, the old palace seems to be more westernized, as the government bought the mansion from a Chinese millionaires. So the only space planning, as I mentioned before, that seems to be influenced by Islamic architecture is the New Balai Rosary. So I think the new palace is is built originally influenced by Islamic architecture. So there are much more Islamic and Malay influence on the new Istana. So yeah.
Oh, bye.
Mm.
Okay, bye. Okay, bye, guys.
Where
Yes.
Back
Hari
to
Raya.
Bye
Oh, I
guys.
back to
see.
Raya.
Selamat Raya.
Back to Raya.
Bye.
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 Thank you for the information sharing.
Bye.
Bye bye.